If you slow down, you see more. It's kind of almost an opposite to how we live. We think that we've
Mm.
got the more we get, the more places we go to, the more we see, the more experience we have. Life's going to get better, and sometimes it's like from getting on a bike, it slows you down. It's not a motorbike going by at a million miles an hour. And then when you walk, you see more, and when you sit still, you see the world.
That's the draw to the ocean as well, I imagine.
Well, I think so. I mean, when you ride a wave, you're just in that moment. There's no question about it. It's like, I mean, I surf all the time. I'm in the water all the time. And the thing that's beautiful about that is it doesn't matter what happens and what you do or what career you've got or the experiences you have. When you're on that wave, that's all that exists. And it's like it wipes the slate clean. And
Mm.
I think that's the attraction. It's almost like perfect yoga in a way, because when you're there, you're not thinking about anything. You just tapped into the experience and the beauty of the moment through the surf.
Yeah, I saw you in a recent interview, and
Hmm.
you were talking to a lady about the surf and your draw to the surf, and you were discussing how your grandfather first took you to the beach.
That's right. Yeah, and a
Yeah.
tram. We went down to Coogee, and I was 9 years old, and off we went. We'd go, every weekend. He'd just roll up his towel, put it under his arm, and we'd jump on the tram at Redfern and end up down at Coogee. And that was the first time I saw the ocean.
Yeah, that's quite amazing how it was the literal first time you'd seen it and you were nine. Like, because I suppose you didn't have a TV, you might have had the radio and things like that, but no one had sort of showed you pictures or anything, had they?
No, no. My grandfather was full-blood Maltese,
Mm.
and he'd retired. And he had a wind-up gramophone. The only way he could listen to music was a wind-up gramophone
Right.
in his apartment. And he had a bust of Mozart there, and he listened to classical music on the ABC. And I'd go down there and sit with him because, he had time. My father was out busy working, and my mother was doing the same, looking after the family and various other things. So he gave me time, and I just stayed with him, and I got tapped into the things that now are really important to me, like flowers and the gardens and the ocean and travel. And
Yep.
so he was my first mentor in a way.
Yeah, it's pretty cool how somebody like that can affect you for your whole life.
Oh yeah, he was a godsend, really. I mean, your parents get caught up there. They're so busy today looking after the family, and
Mm.
there's a detachment in a way that it's kind of they're separated from their children,
Yep.
with the technologies and the way things are and the price of living, etc. But with him, we had all the time in the world, and it was a really great time.
And you stepped on a surfboard around 15, is that right?
Yeah, we moved from there to Redfern, and from Redfern up to the Central Coast,
Mm-hmm.
and we're 100 meters off the ocean. And that's when I hooked up with another school teacher who was a surfer in a surf club up there, and he became a mentor for me and loaned me surfboards and showed me the ways of the ocean, and that was it. I was off after that.
For you, that was kind of just like a spiritual thing, wasn't it? Like as soon as you're out there, you went, "This is me. I'm done for good."
Oh yeah, I looked at it and connected with the ocean from the start. I mean, I just saw life as a spiritual thing. I mean, I didn't understand what it was at that
Yeah.
time, but underneath it, I realized there was more going on, and I was always interested in that aspect of life, how things occurred and where they came from.
Yep.
And the ocean was great for me as a young boy because it tapped me into the natural energy and rhythms of the ocean. And that stayed with me all my life, and I still surf, and that's one of the basic reasons I'm there, for that reason.
Yeah, absolutely. Albie, can you tell us a bit about your relationship with Bob Evans? He's a guy that a lot of people have called the Big Daddy, the grandfather of surfing media. How did that whole thing kick off?
When I started surfing, I was also interested in photography, and I started taking pictures of the ocean. I wanted to share my feelings and experiences with other people because it was such a beautiful experience to go surfing. So I started taking pictures at the same time, and just coincidentally, Bob was traveling up the coast, and he was selling actually women's lingerie,
Right.
which was bizarre because his love was surfing, and he was a filmmaker,
Yeah.
but he didn't have any money to make films, so he had this kind of side job. And one of my friends had a shop up here, a woman's shop, and she met him. And as a result of that, he came to her place that evening, and he just happened to have a 16 millimeter camera, a projector,
Right.
and a film from Bud Brown, and he showed that, and it was all. surfing in Hawaii and various other places. But that was a real pivoting point for me, and that was our connection. From that point forward, soon after that, he started Surfing World magazine, and I started sending him some photographs,
Yep.
just one or two here and there.
Yep.
And that just led to our relationship. And inside of a year or a year and a half, I was working with him. And it was only the two of us, and we were publishing Surfing World magazine, and he was doing films. And he became another mentor. So by the time I was like 20 years old, I had or 24 years old, I had three really important men in my life that put me on the path to where I am now. And Bob was the third one. And unfortunately, he died when he's 44, but he made 13 surfing films.
Wow.
And I had the great opportunity to travel with him during some of those times and become his assistant. I mean, we did everything. And he showed me how to operate a 16mm camera. And next thing you know, I was in Hawaii with David Trelaw, and that was it. And that was the beginning of my film career.
Yeah, right. Can you tell us a little bit about Bud Brown for people that don't know much about Bud Brown?
Well, Bud Brown was the Bob Evans of Hawaii and California.
Yep.
Like, he was the grandfather of filmmaking in California. And he was an incredible guy, a great athlete. And he was doing water photography at the time as well. And that was very rare to take a camera into the ocean and film surfing. And he would go out, he was very fit. He'd go out to Waimea Bay when it was like 30 or 40 feet in the water and do water photography, which was way back, that was in the 50s. And Bob connected with him because Bud was interested in showing his films in Australia. So they formed this relationship where Bob would send his films over to Bud, and Bud would send his films to Bob, and they formed and cemented this relationship, and that was it. When Bud was 95 years old, he went to New Zealand and did a bungee jump.
Really?
That's how fit he was. He's just one of those really high bridges in New Zealand.
Yeah.
He went at 95 years old. He was a pretty amazing guy, Bud.
Wow.
Really great guy. It was probably through his films that got me to Hawaii, because I saw his films before I saw Bob's films, because when Bob came up to the Central Coast and showed a film, was Bud's film, and all the images in there were of the North Shore and the big waves of Hawaii. And that was a magnet for me to actually get there as a photographer and surfer and film them and surf them.
Yeah, that must have been a pretty fun time for you to get out there and get amongst it. I mean, pioneering. It was such early days, wasn't it?
Well, it was. I mean, there were other filmmakers around. Paul Whitsey was in Australia making some films, and Bud. There were a few people just starting to get into it, and but Bob had really cemented it. He was like probably the first person in Australia to actually start shooting surfing, and he did everything himself. He did the camera work, the editing. He raised the money he could from the best ways he could, and then after it was finished, he'd get on the road, take up the coast, and roadshow it in halls and theatres and other places. So it was a one-man band, but it was, that was the start. That was how, it all started in this country.
And in between that same time period, there was obviously another Brown. You had Bruce.
Yeah, Bruce Brown, Endless Summer.
Yeah,
there were a few Brown ones around.
Did you guys have much to do with Bruce?
No, not much. He was kind of a bit solo. He was kind of out in the limb by himself. And no, I never met him when he was in Australia. But he was also a prolific filmmaker. I mean, Bud Brown was the grandfather, and Bruce was like the younger up-and-coming filmmaker. And he just so happened to get on the road and he made several films before he made The Endless Summer. But as soon as that hit the screens, it was a bomb. He went out and from that launched him right into the film world. He then went and made a film on Any Sunday with Steve McLean, which was a motorbike film, and that was a fantastic film.
That was a really good thing for dirt biking, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, that did for dirt biking what Bob did and Bud did for surfing with their films.
Yeah, definitely. No, it was pretty amazing, that film. I only saw it in the last couple of years. I mean, a lot of these films are, as you would know, hard to find sometimes.
Okay, you got a buzzer. Time's up. You win the lucky door prize. I get a ticket to Bali, a return ticket to Bali.
Less than 40 hours left on the mega members sale.
You're very funny.
Oh, jeez. You can't stop some of that stuff coming through, can you?
No, it just flows out. I mean, if you haven't got a sense of humour and you don't see the lighter side of things, what's the point? I mean, I think that's the beauty of surfing and all the things that I've done. You know, I've always tried to keep light and happy
Yeah.
and enjoyable about it. You know, I'm very grateful for my life, to tell you, and the people that I've met and the places that I've been. So, you know, it's easy to just roll over with joy and fall over laughing.